Madam Chair, Community Board 1 Queens is now live on YouTube.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March meeting of Community Board 1. I would ask everybody on the call to please mute themselves at this point. We will be having a presentation. Ernie, could you mute yourself too, please? Thank you. We'll be having a presentation from Eric Friedman on ranked choice voting, which will affect us in June here in CB1 area. So, Mr. Friedman, are you here?
I'm here, thanks.
Good evening. We'll let you take over, and if you need to share your screen.
Yes, if it's possible to give me the ability to share my screen, I have a presentation that I think will be useful for folks to see as I go through the details. So let's see if we can do. Okay.
Your screen is open, sir.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. All right. Here's what I will do. Sorry, just give me a moment. All right. Can folks see that slide that says ranked choice voting in New York City?
Yes.
All right. So with that, I'll jump in. There's a lot to get to. I know that you want me to keep to maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so. So I'll try to reserve some time for questions at the end. But definitely feel free to raise your hand to put a question in the chat so I can get to it sort of at towards the end of my my talk. So just first to kind of explain who I am, what the Campaign Finance Board is, and why I'm here talking about ranked choice voting. So the CFB is a nonpartisan independent city agency. And our work is all about empowering New Yorkers to make a greater impact on their elections. We administer the public matching funds program for city elections. And we do a lot of work all over the city engaging voters through our NYC Votes initiative. Specific to the topic I'll talk about tonight, we have a mandate in the city charter to conduct a comprehensive voter education and outreach campaign this year to introduce ranked choice voting to New Yorkers. And so, after my talk tonight, I'll get through a few things. First, just give you a brief overview of what ranked choice voting is and how it came to be in New York City, how ranked choice voting can benefit voters, and where you'll be able to find some additional resources and questions to answers you might have about ranked choice voting and how to manage it successfully when you cast your ballot in June. So first, the big question: what is ranked choice voting? It is a new way for voters to elect their representatives. Every voter has the opportunity to rank up to 5 candidates in their order of preference instead of choosing just one. This does a few things. It gives voters more say in who represents them. It increases civility between candidates in elections, and it can lead to more diverse candidates and more representative candidates winning elections and serving in government. So just real briefly, who else uses ranked choice voting? Here in New York City, we may be the biggest and best city to adopt ranked choice voting, but we are certainly not the first. There are a number of different states and municipalities across the United States. It is a movement that is growing and really gathering steam. There are 17 cities across the United States, including San Francisco, Minneapolis, Santa Fe, that use ranked choice voting. The state of Maine has been using ranked choice voting to elect state and federal representatives for a while. It is coming soon. It was just adopted in the state of Alaska. And this may or may not be a selling point based on your feelings about the winners, but the Academy Awards also uses a form of ranked choice voting to select the best picture winners. So how did ranked choice voting get to New York City? Back in 2019, the Charter Revision Commission put a question on the ballot to establish ranked choice voting in some local elections. It was adopted by close to 3/4 of voters who voted in November 2019 voted yes to pick up and adopt ranked choice voting for city elections. So it's really important to know this is not a reform that was imposed on us by politicians, by elected officials, by legislature. It's a measure that was approved by the voters, not quite 2 years ago. So though 74% of voters across the city voted yes, certainly there are areas with greater support. Those are in the darker green. And there's some areas of the city where there was, considerably less support for ranked choice. Those are in that kind of orangey brown. And then if you want to zoom in here on Queens, I think most of Queens voted in the majority. There's some areas with a little bit of a lighter green, but you see those kind of areas of darker green with greater support. And this is just, it's important for folks to kind of see how it plays out across the city as you talk to your friends and neighbors. In some parts of the city, you'll encounter some skepticism, and others you may encounter enthusiastic support. So here is just a quick cheat sheet for ranked choice voting in New York City. So it is used for all elections starting January 1st, 2021. So we're past that now. We've already picked it up and used it. It is used only for special elections and primary elections, so not in the general election. And it is only used in special and primary elections for the offices of mayor, public advocate, controller, borough president, and city council. We're going to call those as city offices. So it's not used for federal races like for president, not used in state races like for state assembly or state senate, and it's not used in any judicial elections or for district attorney. So this last part it's really important to understand, because it means that there are some parts of the city where you'll have where ballots will have both ranked choice and single choice elections. So we've already picked it up. We've already used it for a couple of elections in Queens. Special election down in District 31. Counting for those ballots started today. We've got a couple of elections, special elections in the Bronx, where early voting has already started in districts 11 and 15. And of course, we've got that big citywide election in June in the citywide primaries that will be conducted with ranked choice voting. So how did we vote for these offices before? Before ranked choice voting, you may remember, it wasn't so long ago, we used single choice plurality voting in primary and special elections for those 5 city offices I mentioned. Voters would choose only one candidate for each office, and the candidates with the most votes win. And that's how elections went in the special and in the primary and in the general before this year. But because those single choice plurality elections often led to a candidate winning with a pretty low percentage of the vote, we were also required to hold a runoff primary in elections for mayor, public advocate, and controller if there was no candidate who got more than 40% of the total vote. So why is it important to have a majority winner? Well, what it means is that most voters didn't vote for that candidate who won. So if you go back over the last 20 years, out of 73 elections, competitive elections for borough president and city council, 2/3 of them were won by a candidate who got less than 50% of the vote, who did not have majority support.
Huh? I'm listening to this guy talk about ranked choice voting. Yeah.
So the other point about runoffs is, well, one, they're expensive. Over the last 20 years, there've been 5 runoff elections. They don't happen a lot, but they happen often enough that people realize that they're problematic and expensive. $20 million for each of them to get the machines out, print the ballots, hire up the poll workers. So if you look at that, you have the potential of saving as much as $100 million over the next 20 years by moving to ranked choice voting. And the other is that turnout in runoffs has been generally very low. 2013 was the last runoff we had for public advocate. Turnout was 61% less in the primary, in the runoff than it was in the primary. In 2009, we had 2 runoffs for controller and public advocate. turnout dropped by 35, 36% in those runoffs. So the electorate that we're getting for those runoffs is smaller and less representative than the electorate that comes out to vote in those primary elections. So how does ranked choice voting change all that? It eliminates all runoff elections in New York City. It permits the same voters who vote in that primary election to determine the winning candidate without having to come back and vote again 4 weeks later in a separate election. I mean, remember, and this is really important, we're still going to use single choice elections for those federal and state offices, for judicial elections, for district attorney, and in November in the general election for city office. So now we're going to get to the nuts and bolts. How does ranked choice voting work? Here are your steps for marking your ballot. I'm going to pick your first choice candidate in that first column on the left, marked under the number 1, in our representation of the ballot. If you have a second choice, you move over 1 column to the right and fill in an oval for your second choice candidate there. You can rank up to 5 candidates, or as many as running in that election. You can vote for only 1 if you like. If you only like 1 candidate, you can still vote for just 1. You can vote for 2 if you like. It's up to every individual voter to decide for yourself. It's important to know, however, that ranking fewer candidates does increase the chances that your vote doesn't go towards the ultimate winner. By putting more candidates on your ballot, you have a better chance of contributing, of voicing for your support for the candidate who will end up representing you. It's a system that's very voter first. It helps ensure that the voters' voice ultimately carries through, and we get voters who get representatives who best represent the collective voice of the electorate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that before we finish. But I want to focus for now on the ballot. Something to note, which is just basic logic here: the number of ranks available, it'll match the number of candidates who are running. So let's say there are only 3 candidates in your race. You'll see 4 ranks available on your ballot, because every ballot will still have that line. You'll see it here on the bottom in this representation for a candidate to write in the name for a voter to write in the name of a candidate, their choice. Here's an example from the election going on, one of the elections going on right now in the Bronx. This is an actual image of the sample ballot that's being used up there. And you can see it matches pretty closely the representation that I was showing you earlier. You can see the list of candidates there, and the columns from left to right: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. While we're talking about the ballot, there are a few pitfalls that are important to lift up and point out. It's really important that you don't give multiple candidates the same rank. You see here in this example, you have a voter who tried to rank both candidate B and candidate C first. If you do that, your ballot may not count. If you're voting at the poll site, you feed this ballot into the scanner will kick it back out. It'll tell you there's an error, and you have, as a voter, you have 2 more chances to request a new ballot and cast it. But if you're voting from home, as we anticipate many people will continue to do this year as the pandemic is still with us, and you're voting absentee, you don't have a chance to get that instant feedback. So it's important to have in mind this potential error. You want to make sure that you don't give the same rank to more than one candidate. And the other potential error to note is you don't want to rank a candidate more than once. And you can see here in this example, the lower example, you have a voter who tried to rank candidate B 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Now, this ballot will count, but there's no benefit to ranking candidate B in multiple times on the ballot. It ultimately counts the same as if you voted candidate B first choice and left the others blank. Sorry, I know not everybody loves it. It's new, but we will.
I apologize. Please mute yourselves. I don't think it was a comment on ranked choice voting.
Okay, all right. I don't take it personally. But yes, ranking a candidate more than once on your ballot does not increase, it doesn't help that candidate. It just basically deprives the voter of the opportunity to lend their support to one of the other candidates. So here are your main takeaways. You can still vote for your first choice candidate, but ranking other candidates on your ballot doesn't harm your first choice. By ranking multiple candidates, you still have a chance to impact who gets elected, even if that top choice doesn't win. If you do rank multiple candidates, it ensures your vote will go towards your second, third, fourth, or fifth place choice if your top choice is eliminated, giving you more say in who wins and ends up representing you. You can rank up to 5 candidates, but you don't need to rank a total of 5. You can rank 1 if you like. You can rank 2, 3, or 4. But it's important to understand, and this is something that helped me as I worked to understand ranked choice voting. The whole concept of one person, one vote still stands. If you rank 5 candidates, that does not mean that 5 votes are getting counted. At any point, you only have 1 active vote. I'll talk a little bit here about the ways that ranked choice voting benefits voters. Again, you have more say as voters in who gets elected. Even if your top choice doesn't win, and we were just covering this, you can still help choosing who does win. You can vote for your top choice, the candidate who you really like first, without worrying about kind of like who the pundits and the commentators think is going to win. You don't have to vote strategically. You don't have to make a decision between voting for your favorite candidate and the candidate who is quote unquote most electable. Second, candidates are more likely to appeal to a wider audience. Candidates can't win only with the support of their base, which means that voters are going to hear from more candidates. They're going to hear from people not only campaigning for their first choice votes, but they're going to come out and ask you to consider them, even if you may like somebody better. They're going to be asking for second or third place votes, which means they have to appeal to a wider audience. In other jurisdictions that we've seen adopt ranked choice voting, this has led to more civility and less negativity between candidates. And you see, and you're even starting to see it a little bit if you're following the races here in New York City, some like-minded candidates for the same office who are kind of endorsing each other or kind of promoting them as their second choice. And lastly, in cities that have adopted ranked choice voting, what we've seen is that we have elected officials who are more representative of the communities they serve. You have 7 cities that use ranked choice voting that have either achieved or even surpassed gender parity in their city legislatures, their city council. That's something in New York City that we've seen is a little bit out of whack, could use some corrective action. In the 13 largest municipalities that use ranked choice, 6 of them have elected women mayors. 4 of them have elected mayors who are Black, Latino, or Asian. So what we see in a lot of these cities is, again, candidates breaking through who ultimately are more representative of the voters they represent. I want to point to a couple of resources that are out there and available for folks to look at, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. Voting.nyc is our general voting information website. It's a great place to start. We have a page on our agency website that is devoted to ranked choice voting resources. You see nyccfb.info /RCV resources. We conduct some really in-depth trainings on a regular basis, twice a week, Wednesdays midday and Thursday evenings. You can sign up for those on our website, nyccfb.info /RCV trainings. And those will run like 60 to 90 minutes and really are aimed at helping people build the understanding of ranked choice so that they can take it back into their communities and help explain it to others. We are on the social media platforms if you spend time on those. We're also on YouTube. We have a great explainer video that we just published this week. I can make sure you have the link to that if you want to take a look and share that with your friends and other folks. I have my contact information here, and I'll share that with folks. eFriedman at nyccfb.info. If you have further questions, would like to discuss more. I'm going to pause here. I know that you wanted to keep things to schedule. Usually in these presentations, I'll talk a little bit about the tabulation. If folks are interested, I can spend a few more minutes on that. But again, I want to be respectful of the time.
Please do. If you wouldn't mind, that would be great, Mr. Friedman, on the tabulation. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take a few minutes just to talk about the way that votes are counted. This is especially timely as votes are being counted right now down in that Southeast Queens District 31. It's important because I think it gives a clearer idea of why you'll want to rank multiple candidates on your ballot instead of just voting for one. So the first round is really simple. All the first choice votes get counted from every voter's ballot. If there's a candidate who received more than 50% of those votes, they win. You can see it in this example that we've laid out here. You have candidate B who received 54% of the first choice votes. So candidate B is the winner. That special election in District 24, again, similar result. You had a candidate who received close to 60% of those first choice votes, Jim Gennaro, and so he ends up as the winner. No tabulation, no problem. However, if there's no candidate who gets more than 50% of those first choice votes, as you can see in this example, everybody's below 40% here. Counting then continues in rounds. So in each round, as we go, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. So I'll explain this by looking at a single voter's example ballot over here on the left. So our example voter ranked candidate D as her first choice. So candidate D also happens to have the fewest number of votes in this round. Candidate D's only got 12%. So as we do the tabulation, candidate D gets eliminated. So that 12% of voters who chose candidate D have their vote moved to the next highest ranked candidate on each of their ballots. So again, our example voter ranked candidate C second. Her vote's going to move to candidate C. But there are three other candidates. Not every voter ranked candidate C second. Some rank candidate B next. Some rank candidate A next. So those votes are going to move to whoever was ranked second on those ballots. So that increases the vote totals for candidate A, B, and C. And you can see each of them gain, right? Candidate A gained 4% up to 31. Candidate B gained 6% up to 45. Candidate C got only 2% up to 24. And so now we're going to go into the next round. I think you see where it's going. In each round, the candidate with the fewest votes gets eliminated. So in our example, candidate C was her second choice, but candidate C's got the fewest number of votes in this round. So candidate C is going to go. The 24% of voters whose vote was with candidate C, they're all going to move to the next highest ranked candidate. So in our example, you see our sample or example voter ranked candidate B third. Her vote moves over to candidate B. Some of those votes for candidate C had candidate A ranked next. So candidate A is going to receive some of those votes as well. So the totals for each of those two remaining candidates are going to increase. And you see here, candidate B has crossed that 50% threshold. There's only two candidates left, and candidate B is the winner. All of this tabulation happens, it will happen on a computer in June. The same as how election results have always been added up. There's this multiple complexity of those multiple rounds of shifting votes, but the computer process handles it more or less instantaneously. I think what we've seen both in November of last year and in some of these special elections we've had so far this year, there are delays in the counting, and it's important to understand that those delays are really associated with the absentee voting process and the delays in the law that require BOE to wait until a week or more after the election before they can open those ballots and start to count them. But the counting of the tabulation of ranked choice doesn't really stretch out that timeline for making the results available at all. Once the tabulations are done, the results in all those various rounds are going to be published and shown to the voters, and so you'll see how each of them shook out. And there's your tabulation right there. And now here is where I'll kind of stop and see if folks have any questions about the way the votes are counted, or really any part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Friedman. I see that we have one question here from Dan Alabodi.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I had a question about, so the person who gets the least votes in the first round, the votes that the percentage that they did get, is it evenly distributed over the other candidates, or is there some formula as to how it's distributed?
Right. Well, I mean, it all depends on who the second choice is on each of those ballots, right? So, for in that candidate who was ranked last in our example, some percentage went to each of the remaining candidates. Just again based on each voter's preference, as indicated on their ballot. So it's not really a formula, just as much as going down the preferences. Does that answer your question?
A little more clear. I'll have to go to the website and read some more on it, I think.
Okay, yeah. I mean, again, I think it is all basically in the hands of the voter to determine where that ballot goes. Again, it's why you want to rank. If your candidate is one of the candidates who ends up at the bottom, your vote still has an opportunity to help elect.
What happens if some or a significant portion of the people do not vote for a first choice? They do a second, third, fourth, whatever, but not a first.
I mean, it's an interesting question, and I think ultimately, like the count is going to go to whatever your next choice is, right? So if you skip a rank, the counting is just going to skip over that, and it will take your second choice as your first choice in that instance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Kathleen Warnock.
Yes, I wanted to ask if you could break it down to primaries in general. In this district, we generally have most of the candidates running on the Democratic ticket. What happens with the Republican, Working Family Party, and this SAM party during the primaries and in the general?
Well, so each party that has a primary election will be conducted through ranked choice voting. I mean, I think your observation is correct. I think it is the Democratic primaries that are traditionally the most active. If you've got, we've got hundreds and hundreds of candidates across the city running for city council. There's, a host of candidates for mayor. Most of those candidates are running in the Democratic primary, but each primary will be conducted with ranked choice voting. Once you get around to November, those elections are conducted by single choice elections. And part of the reason why, I think you kind of touched on part of the reason why that's the case. You can have candidates in the general election who will appear on more than one party line, and this is something that we have in New York State, fusion voting. Candidates can run as nominees of both the Democratic Party and the Working Families Party. And so, the folks in the Charter Revision Commission, as they were putting together the law around ranked choice voting, it was their determination that fusion voting makes ranked choice a little too complicated. And it wasn't something that they thought it would just be confusing for voters to try to rank when you have, you may see the same name twice on your ballot. I think we'll see how it goes in the primaries. It may be that ranked choice voting is so popular that we're going to have to find a way to make it apply to the general elections in the future. But for now, it is something that is used by all parties in the primary and not in the general election.
Thank you. That was a really good explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Does any other board member have a question? Please use the raise hand function if you can. I see a question in the chat, though. I think you answered it from Christina. What if someone doesn't place a vote for each available candidate? Does that cause any changes in tabulation?
Well, so that's
Chair?
right.
Lorena Moore has his hand up when you have an opportunity.
Excuse me, can you answer that question, Mr. Friedman?
Certainly. So yeah, and I think and I did sort of touch on that. So if you leave one blank and skip from first to third, or skip the first choice, the tabulation will just move to the next choice. If you on your ballot you let's say you have a voter who ranks has a first choice and a second choice and it stops there. It could well be that that the candidates who that voter is supporting both kind of fall off during the tabulation. There's a term for that kind of ballot. It's called an exhausted ballot, right? It means that ballot, it doesn't end up being counted in the third or fourth or fifth round when those candidates have been eliminated. I mean, in reality, that is not so different than voters who vote for losing candidates under our single choice voting system. But yes, it's as long as it's possible to count your ballot, the tabulation will get all the way across and rank each of your choices in order.
Thank you. Lorena Moore?
Hi, and I apologize if I missed this. Do you have a sense from the recent special elections how many voters actually took part in ranking multiple candidates, and if that had a significant impact on the results at all?
So that's a good question, and I can't answer it completely as yet. So as I mentioned, the special election District 24, there was no tabulation because a candidate, the winning candidate got more than 50% on that first choice, on the voters' first choice ballots. Now, we would like for the Board of Elections to kind of show the cast vote records, so it's possible to answer your question and see how many voters actually ranked multiple candidates, but we don't have that data yet from the Board of Elections. And I noted that counting out in District 31, election day was, February 23rd, but counting is only starting today in that election. And so hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have a sense of how many voters ranked multiple candidates on their ballots and have some idea of how successful we've been in kind of reaching out to voters and how much voters have adopted it. What we do have in those districts is a little bit of exit polling that was conducted in those races. And so what we've seen in the one poll that I've seen, there are about 61% of voters reported that they ranked multiple candidates on their ballot. And most of the candidates who said that they didn't rank more than one said because really there's only one candidate that they preferred. And we've seen like much higher numbers, between 80 and 90% of voters reporting that they found, they said that they understood ranked choice voting, they understood the process. So that's not a replacement for the actual data from the Board of Elections, but it is encouraging that, at the end of the day, this is a process. It's not so difficult for most voters to understand. And we do see that the majority of voters are taking advantage of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathleen, you may ask your other question.
So let's see. Will mail-in ballots? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, if anyone uses a mail-in ballot that they fill out incorrectly, will the ballot be voided when they're put through the scanner, or will the voter have a chance to cure the ballot?
That is that. So you may have better information than I about this. I know that there is a process for cure for defects with the absentee ballots, and so my understanding of this, right? So the cure process is for things like a signature on the oath envelope and defects of that nature. Once the ballot is opened and kind of taken out of the envelope, it's kind of, you can't associate that ballot with the voter again. So it ends up being difficult to kind of reach out and and kind of reach back to that voter for a cure. I'm happy to kind of, research the answer a little bit more. And if it turns out that I'm in error, I'm going to reach back out to you guys and correct myself. But that is my understanding of the cure process.
I was at the mail-in balloting count last July, and there were a fair number of ballots voided because they were just very small things incorrectly filled out. And I can anticipate with people having to change the way they vote, there will be a much higher percentage of ballots that aren't correct.
Yep. That is the concern anytime you change the method of voting. And I think, we're going to see, really, we're going to see, once we have results in the special election District 31, now that there's been a tabulation, it will really be our kind of first ability to kind of start answering those questions, to learn from the results, to see if there are specific issues that we need to make sure that we're emphasizing between now and when voting starts in June, to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Friedman. If you could put that website in the chat, that would be great, because some of us need to study this more.
For sure. I'll make sure I leave those, everything you need to see down in the chat.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? So thank you very much, Mr. Friedman, for being here. And we look forward to it after we study this a little more before June.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, that was interesting, and I think I need to study it a little more before I go to the polls. But all right, moving on, elected officials. I see Daniel Bontius is here from Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's office. Daniel.
Hi, Marie. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Bontius. Excuse me. I'm the Deputy District Director of Operations for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. The Congresswoman hosted a virtual town hall on Tuesday, February 9th. She was joined by representatives from the city and state to discuss the COVID vaccine rollout, and she took questions from constituents. If you weren't able to attend the event, the recording of this and previous town halls is all available on our YouTube page. We'll also be having our upcoming March town hall at the end of the month. It's not scheduled yet, but we will send out notifications shortly. If you would like to get those notifications, you can sign up for our mailing list in either English or Spanish, and I'll share those links in the chat in a moment. Down in DC last week, President Biden signed the American Recovery Plan. Working with her colleagues, the Congresswoman pushed to get important relief included, including expanded funeral assistance, stimulus checks for adult dependents who were not included in previous packages, a tax exemption for your first $10,200 of unemployment benefits, and desperately needed state and local funding for things like the MTA. This legislation also extends much of the already existing COVID relief, including $1,400 stimulus checks, $300 weekly unemployment benefits, as well as an expanded $3,600 child tax credit. And I have a calculator, which I can share in the chat to give you a sense of how much you should expect. This week, the House is considering immigration legislation on two bills, the Dream and Promise Act and the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. These two bills will give a pathway to citizenship and grant permanent residency to Dreamers, TPS holders, and undocumented farm workers. We'd love to hear from constituents on these bills, so if you or your neighbors have thoughts, please feel free to call our office. I'll share the number and our website in a moment. Also on March 5th, along with 8 of her colleagues in the New York delegation, the Congresswoman sent a letter to Governor Cuomo to express their concerns about NRG's Astoria replacement project. NRG is currently seeking to update the 50-year-old turbine at their Astoria area power plant with new natural gas-fired power. And the letter states that moving forward with the implementation of new natural gas-fired power creates nuisances and real health hazards, which the community has vocally opposed. Our office is still working remotely, but we continue to assist constituents with federal casework. So feel free to reach out at our website or over the phone. PPP applications are still open through March 31st. Business owners can search for Small Business Administration approved lenders and find directions for applying for loans on the SBA website, which I'll share in a moment. And additionally, the SBA is working expeditiously to open up applications for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, an emergency assistance grant for eligible venues affected by the COVID pandemic. In the meantime, thanks to a provision in the American Rescue Plan, small venue owners can apply for PPP while the grant is being set up. The Small Business Administration will take into account any dispersed PPP loans when calculating the SVOG amount an owner is eligible for. And I'll share a link where you can get updates on the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And then finally, our office is participating in the Congressional Art Competition. This is a nationwide competition hosted by the Congressional Art Institute in collaboration with art teachers across our district. High school students submit entries to our office, where a panel selects the winning art piece to be displayed in the halls of the Capitol. If you're interested in participating, you can contact me and my colleague Destiny Cruz, and I'll share our contact info in the chat. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I see Assembly Member Donnie is here. Did you have an announcement, Assembly Member?
Yes, I just wanted to give an overview of a couple of updates. Would now be a good time, or are there any questions for Daniel before I do that?
No, this is fine. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Marie, for calling on me. A couple of updates. I'm here in Albany right now, but I wanted to just go through some of the actions that our office has been taking, as well as some of the things that I've been up to here. First and foremost, on Wednesday, March 24th at 7 p.m., our office is going to be hosting a info session with New York City Free Tax Prep, which will give an overview of site and services, state resources around personal finance, whether that's opening bank accounts, budgeting, figuring out a student loan debt plan, as well as updates regarding stimulus checks. And Kartika, who is running our comms for the office, as well as doing constituent services, has just put that information into the chat. Additionally, in terms of an update about New York state law with regards to evictions and foreclosures, we still have a halt on both of those things until May 1st. If any tenants or homeowners are in need of filling out the declaration of hardship, there's going to be a link in the chat where you can do that. It's bit.ly/declare hardship, and all of that is lowercase. Daniel mentioned the Astoria power plant and the NRG. And we are also taking actions to oppose that project. As of now, it's a north of $1 billion proposal to build a natural gas powered plant in our district. And it would threaten our health and the environment. And the governor and the DEC can stop that by refusing to issue a permit. And so if anyone is interested in writing a public comment on that proposal, you can go to bit.ly/no NRG plant. And the link is in the chat as well. And, right now I am in Albany most of the time, I would say Sunday night to about Thursday night or Friday night. And the reason for the frequency of the trips is because we're in the midst of budget negotiations. Our budget is due at the end of this month. As of now, the Assembly has proposed a budget that would be north of $200 billion, about 208 or 209 billion, with new revenue proposals that would raise a little bit north of $7 billion. This is an improvement over past years, but I do believe that it is not meeting the needs of our district and of our state. And so I'm continuing to push for that number to be increased with regards to revenues that are raised. And our office continues to be close to the public due to the pandemic, but you can always get in touch via the phone. You can call us at 718-545-3889, or you can email us at ad36@nyassembly.gov. And I would like to end with just a bit of an uplifting story, which is that a few weeks ago, one of our favorite restaurants here in Astoria, Pochana Thai Kitchen, they had a break-in and they lost up to $1,500 worth of funds as well as damage to their restaurant. And our neighbors rallied together and raised that money back. And over the past weekend, we gave them a check, and so that they will not face any loss of funds because of that break-in. So just wanted to share that, an example of some beautiful solidarity in our neighborhood. But I hope everyone is well. Marie, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Assembly Member, and thank you for that uplifting story. We need those. Thank you. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Marie. Hello, Board One. I hope all is well. So a couple of things that I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about the state of the borough, Donovan Richards' State of the Borough. I would like everyone to try and go to our website and take a look at it. He puts out his vision for Queens, which happens to be, I think, a great path of positive change. Very big on transportation. And most importantly, I'd like you to look at the community board section. You know, he's been working very hard to change a lot of things on community boards. We're in the process of filling seats. I don't know where that is in the process for you, but he's looking to make the boards more relevant. And one of the first things that he's starting with is he's looking at committee chairs, and he wants them to get more responsibility. He feels, you know, chairs don't get paid, do what they do, as all board members do, but certainly chairs, for the love of their community and the love of their policy that they work on. So he wants them to be able, as we move forward, to be able to contact Borough Hall directly as we're working on projects. Now, that's not to say not to have the district manager involved in any and all emails, and Marie also. But he feels that it would be, once a project gets started, sometimes it might be best served to work or be able to talk to whoever's handling transportation or land use. And I know your land use person talks to Irving. And, you know, lately I've been working with your environmental chair directly and your parks chair, and it's been great. And we're really going to be doing a lot of stuff with transportation, which Northern Boulevard, we are making, going on a tour of Northern Boulevard, and that'll be Donovan, myself, and Commissioner Garcia. And with that tour, we will have from your transportation department, Mitch is working on that, any and all ideas that the board feels, and that's the whole board through them, should be looked at. And that's with the bike lane, you know, we've got some of those things already, and delineators and the meters, but much more. He's looking to put money in really for projects and infrastructure and pedestrian safety measures. So we're looking forward to that. Chairs should also, like Marie runs this meeting, you know, chairs should start to get involved and run their committee meetings. But again, everything that goes back and forth and be done, make sure your district manager and your chair know. And then with that, I will finally say that he has a recruitment fair, Donovan Richards, March 18th at 2 p.m. You get on that through our website. And with that, I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Joe. Dan Brown is here from Queens DA Katz's office. Dan?
Hi, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got a very busy meeting. I have something brief, though, for you. Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz is having her Women's History Month event, Thursday the 25th. It's an online event. Live streaming begins at 4 p.m. And the keynote speaker is Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett. If anybody wants to come on and view this, you can go to queensda.org. That is the DA's website, and register for this free event. And also, if you want to check out the DA's hotlines and office lines for the different bureaus we have, you can go to queensda.org. I put my contact information in the chat. And again, queensda.org for the Women's History Month event that is going to be held on March the 25th. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Shamina from Assemblymember Gonzalez Rojas.
Hi everyone, my name is Shamima Rahman. Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, she's in session right now, so she can't be here with everyone, but she definitely would love to be here. Just a few updates. She has co-sponsored at least 71 bills in just over 2 months. She has proud to partnered with Assembly Member Rosenthal in sending a letter to Cuomo about and the colleagues about food pantries and food bank workers grab-and-go site to be eligible for vaccines. And so she was able to pass it. And so now they're eligible to get the phase 1 vaccine plan. I will link you of how you can tell if you're eligible for the vaccine in the chat. Also, right now she is co-sponsoring several bills. One of the bills is the New York HERO Act, which helps protect COVID-19 by establishing enforcing health and safety standards. She's also sponsoring a bill called the Solidarity Confinement Act, which is a bill that will signify the limit of use of solitary confinement and exempt vulnerable populations, including minors, older New Yorkers, people with disabilities, those who are pregnant, caring for a child, or in postpartum recovery. If you check her Twitter, you'll see a great video she did where she's speaking on the floor about this issue about solitary confinement. This is a very important issue to her, and we all hope that we're able to pass this law. If you right now our offices are currently closed, but you can contact us via email. Her email is gonzalezrojasj@nyassembly.gov, and our phone number is 718-457-0384. I posted it in the chat. It's a bit far up in the chat now, but I'll repost it again if anyone would like to contact us directly. And also in our offices, we speak English, Bengali, and Spanish, and we can offer other languages if need be. We also offer PPE hand sanitizers at our offices. If you'd like to pick that up, you can make an appointment via email. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Zabowski. I'm sorry, Jessica, did I miss you?
You did not, but you ignored the C, so it's Shabowski.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hi, folks. I'm just going to highlight a few things with the vaccine rollout. So today, good news is that we surpassed 3 million vaccinations in New York City from the beginning of this effort. And we are well on our way to our goal of 5 million New Yorkers fully vaccinated by June. Last week, we had our best week yet with 370,000 vaccinations in a week. And our goal is to have that at 500,000 a week. We are slowly progressing there, so it is good news. With the approval of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we just continue to emphasize to all New Yorkers that the goal right now is to get any vaccine whatsoever. And our health leadership is emphasizing the message that once you get vaccinated and you wait a few weeks, your body is close to 0 hospitalizations and absolutely 0 deaths. So we're encouraging all New Yorkers to get a vaccine as soon as they can. And I will put in the phone numbers and websites for appointments in the chat afterwards. We continue to test for variants more than any other city in the country. We're tracking the spread of the variants that we know about, and we're also testing so that we can find new ones that might emerge in the future. To continue supporting our vaccination rollout, the city's recruiting 2,000 New Yorkers to serve in their communities, hiring for clinical roles, vaccinators, as well as support and administrative roles. And I'll be putting that link in the chat as well. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jessica. I have a question.
Sure.
I understand there's a new group tomorrow eligible for vaccines. Is that correct?
It may be correct, and I will have to follow up and get back to you in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, because I was just wondering if there was, they had to go to the vaccine hub, or were they also eligible to go to pharmacies? I think it's government and not-for-profit workers that are front-facing the public.
I hear what you're saying. It's the specialization is the pharmacies doing it for teachers and the folks who are 60 and over. And everybody is able to go to all the hubs now if you're eligible in general.
Okay, including the groups that is eligible tomorrow cannot go to the pharmacies. Is that correct?
The pharmacies remain focused on the 60 plus teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ernie Brooks, did you have an announcement? Thank you.
Yes, a brief announcement. I'd say Daniel covered a lot of what our Congress people have been doing in Washington over the last week, which has been considerable. Obviously, there's the American Rescue Plan, which is perhaps the major thing coming out of there. Carolyn also worked on passing 2 gun safety bills, a pro-worker bill to protect organizing rights, increase the formation of unions, make it more possible. Also reintroduced the Improving Helicopter Safety Act, the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act, the Measuring Real Income Growth Act, and her resolution calling for the ratification of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, something that's been far too long in coming. And also, as the chair of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, she released new documents obtained during the committee's investigation into Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, and launched an inquiry into the Postal Service's recent contract award to purchase up to 165,000 new postal vehicles from the Oshkosh Corporation. All this in trying to get the Postal Service in better shape than it was, given the fact that we are going to have elections coming up and into the future, and that's so important. Another thing I wanted to touch base on, she also signed on to the letter with others of the congressional delegation in terms of the Astoria frac gas plant. And hopefully that will, she believes strongly that billions going into new infrastructure should go into sustainable, renewable infrastructure, not supporting the fossil fuel one, which is so much part of the problem at the present time. Another thing is she was glad to announce also her setting up of the Congressional Art Competition. The office is excited to announce the launch of the 2021 Congressional Art Competition. This year, students will be able to submit their artwork and additional information through a Google form. We just hope this will make the art competition more accessible to all students. The winner's artwork will be hung in the Capitol complex for a year. Each winner will also receive 2 free round-trip tickets on Southwest Airlines to attend the winner's reception in Washington, D.C. I'm going to put all the information for that. There'll be a link to make an easy application and describing what the specifications of the artwork are and who can participate. And I'll put that in the chat. And along with the Congresswoman's website and the phone number at her office in Manhattan office. The Queens office is not open, but the New York one is, and there's always someone there to answer questions about vaccinations, about immigration questions, any issues where constituents need help. So that's it, and thank you to the board, and also thanks for that very informative piece on the ranked choice voting, which is, I gotta say, I learned a lot. It's still complicated, but that goes a long way to explaining it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. I'm sorry, Kathleen, did you have a question? I see your hand is up. Kathleen Warnock?
That was actually about the vaccinations. Is she still here?
Yes, she's still here.
Hi,
Yes.
Jessica. I wanted to ask if I've seen lately that there will be in-home vaccinations for the homebound, and I'm wondering how close we are to that. And secondly, is the city going to be able to update its website so that people don't have to go to a city, the state, or the FEMA website to be able to find their appointments?
So on the homebound front, I have the details in front of me for the rollout as far as the homebound seniors, and those were identified by the Department for the Aging through home care agencies, home delivered meals programs, and senior adult providers. And the Department for the Aging called their families to schedule appointments that were then administered by FDNY, and that effort is ongoing. This week, I believe the homebound vaccination effort was also expanded to include not only the elderly who are homebound, but all folks who are homebound. And so I can get you I'll put in the website for submitting interest for that vaccination. And as far as the appointments being streamlined into a single website, that is something that the mayor has been trying to get happen. The issue is that it is different jurisdictions. There are different private providers. So a lot of medical offices just have their own operations, and we haven't been successful on that front yet.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Mary Jo Bader, I hope I said that correctly, from State Senator Jessica Ramos's office. Did you want to make an announcement?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. Yes, our office is moving from from Junction Bluebird to Jacksonhurst, but we are still unpacking and getting it ready to welcome our guests. So once it is ready, I'm gonna share the address with all of you. For the so we are still working from working remotely. Our phone number is 718-205-3881. I will also share it on the chat. Beside that, as Daniel and Assembly Member Mamdani talked about the NRG plant, the senator is also against the fossil fuel powered plant. She has passed a bill S3211A, which creates an enhanced public participation process for all major energy projects. As of now, the NRG plant has not met this new public participation requirements, and this should significantly delay the projects from being built. The senator is also introducing another legislation to ban the construction of new fossil fuel powered plants. This bill will block new large electric generating facilities from getting permits from the Department of Environmental Conservation in PSC. It would also block the NRG plant. That's all for now. Thank you again.
Thank you. Dan Alberti, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question to whomever it's appropriate for. It's a COVID vaccine question. When they start doing the home administration of the vaccine, somebody will be coming to the home, and when you go to, say, the pharmacy and get your shot, they want you to sit there for an hour, and so that you can be observed to see if there are any side reactions to this vaccine. When a person comes to your home to give the vaccine, are they going to stay for an hour and wait to see if anything, how you're doing, or are they just going to walk out? And how's that all going to work? Because that would be quite time consuming if they did have to stay. However, it's probably important that they do stay.
Yes, so it's a 15-minute window, I understand, and they are staying. That is baked into their appointments.
So they'll stay for 15 or for an hour?
15.
And most of the sites, Daniel, are also just 15 minutes.
Well, I was asked to stay for an hour, so, okay.
You were blessed.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add is that the administration of the homebound vaccines has so far been concentrated in like one neighborhood at a time. So if there were an issue, let's just say for the sake of argument, FDNY would be in the area within the hour. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Are there any other elected officials or their representatives who would like to make an announcement?
Jack from Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer's office here.
Go ahead, Jack.
Hi, everybody. Jack with Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer's office here with some updates. First, sad to share that this past weekend, our office lost Ronnie Tharrington, husband of Deborah Tharrington, who's been working for the council member and representing Community Board 1 for the past 11 years, and the father of former CB1 member Danielle Tharrington, passed away on Saturday from cancer. A memorial service will be held tomorrow at Corpus Christi in Woodside, starting at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. Moving on to regular points, neighborhoods in CB1 are still seeing high COVID-19 positivity rates, with rates as high as 7.37% in the district. So remember to keep social distancing, wear your masks, get tested, and get vaccinated when eligible. On Monday, March 1st, marked the official beginning of Open Culture, with the applications for the program now live. Cultural venues, arts organizations, and artists can apply for permits for free, donation-based, and or ticketed arts and cultural programs, events, and rehearsals in more than 100 streets across the city. Although culture never truly closed, This community has been without space to perform and put on ticketed events for a year now. And now through open culture, our streets will host dance, comedy, music, circus arts, song, and performance. We already have 250 plus events already being scheduled. And I will be adding a link in the chat to learn more about the program and apply yourself. Also, this month, Councilmember Van Bramer wrote a letter to the mayor calling for a stronger vaccine distribution program that works closely with the community-based organizations, or CBOs, that understand the needs of their neighbors so well. The letter highlights the need to prioritize our most vulnerable, specifically Black and Brown communities, and those that have seen lower vaccination rates. This is an effort to increase the number of vaccination sites across the city, increase more access to the vaccines in CB1. Also, budget season has begun in the council with preliminary budget hearings taking place this month. Council members paying close attention to proposed budgets for our libraries, arts and culture, and social services across the city. We'll be fighting for a just budget that supports a fair reopening and serves all New Yorkers equitably. That's all I have this month. Happy Women's History Month. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Are there any other elected officials, representatives who want to make an announcement?
Hi, Marie. This is Harris with the Control's
Hi,
Office.
Harris.
But I know Rudy has been waving his hand, so if, I don't know if he had a question for the other.
Rudy has, well, I don't see his hand up here.
It's one of the
Rudy's
100 hands.
Using his physical hand, Marie.
Well, okay. Rudy, did you have a question to somebody?
No, I have a suggestion. Can we have the Howard meeting first and then all the people who wants to speak, elected officials, to have after Howard meeting? Because right now we have over an hour just to go over, you know, we should have a Howard meeting first and then.
Thank you for your comment, Rudy.
Go after we have the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, Harris, I apologize. Go ahead,
No
please.
worries at all. I will try. I'll try my best to be concise.
Thank you.
The office we've been working on a lot of different issues, but it is budget season, and I do represent the city comptroller, who is the chief auditor and the chief financial officer. So a lot of budget stuff, testimonies in the state and in the city council on the budget. I guess I'll report out on a few kind of key items regarding the budget. The controller highlighted the immediate needs that families and small businesses have that we need to fund to jumpstart our economy, including the restaurants, including canceling rent, and some other areas, such as the taxi drivers who've been struggling with so much. But he's also highlighted the areas of spending where we've not seen any proven results. That includes spending over $3 billion on homelessness, twice as much as we did 7 years ago without the results to speak for it. That includes spending over $400,000, way more than $400,000 a year to incarcerate one person in Rikers while violence continues to climb, and without investing in the preventative needs that communities have that would avoid that situation. Also spending over $200 million a year on mental health programs without sufficient accountability, data, or measurable outcomes to show for it. That spending must be evaluated and agencies must be held accountable to produce results. And that stands along with all the audits and investigations we've done over the years that highlighted several of these areas. And then on some positive news, pension funds, on energy, completely against the energy. And we actually were there with the comptroller and Assemblymember Mamdani and a few other folks to protest the plant back in the fall. And on our pension funds, we carried out the largest divestment in the world, $4 billion from fossil fuels and securities. Meanwhile, the performance of the pension funds have been very high. Last year, our pension funds earned over 14%. And through December, the pension funds have earned almost 9% a year since the beginning of the controller's tenure, while the target was 7%, so way above the target. And lastly, we'll drop into the chat a series of workshops and meetings we're doing. It's called the MWBE University series. It's, I think, the 4th year that we're doing this in the office. The goal is to make sure that we help support and train MWBEs and bring them into the loop in terms of government contracting. And that follows all the work we do on report cards, which lay out the performance of agencies with how they serve our communities. So I'll drop that in the chat. It has like a list of different workshops I encourage folks to attend. I am going to attend several of them because I'm not really into the contracting space. I'm more into policy and comms and community relations. So I'm definitely going to partake, and I encourage everybody to do so. And yeah, we're always available. So feel free to call or email if there's any issues with any city agencies or anything at all that we could assist with. I'll drop this and the other stuff in the chat box.
Thank you, Harris.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else, any elected official? I think we've seen them all tonight. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call for an adoption of the February 2021 minutes. Can I have a motion to adopt?
Motion.
Who's that, please? Oh, Ed.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Corrections? Thank you. Chair's report. I really don't have a report. I just wanted to take a moment of reflection on this anniversary of COVID-19 here in New York. So many of our families have been devastated by this disease and lost a loved one. So we have to remember them in our thoughts on this awful anniversary. At the same time, we have to be eternally grateful to our healthcare workers who cared for us while putting themselves at risk. And also to EMS, FDNY, NYPD, who helped us, as well as all the workers who stayed on the front line, so we could get the essentials and get where we had to be. So while there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's not over. I love you all, so please keep your mask on, get your vaccine when you can, and let's move forward, hopefully to a better year. Thank you. Florence?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jack from Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer's office made the first portion of my report. I was going to report about Debbie and Danielle Farrington's loss. Please keep them both in your prayers. The second portion of my report is related to the floating hospital in Cynthia Davis. The floating hospital has received vaccines and provides transportation to qualified residents in our community. They have been working with all the NYCHA developments, working to assist the community wherever they can. The floating hospital is located at 41-43 Crescent Street, and the phone number is 718-784-2240. If you have any questions or need further assistance, please contact the board office. We are in from 9 to 5. I'm going to repeat the phone number for Cynthia Davis at the floating hospital, 718-784-2240. They have vaccines and they are working with the community. Thank you. Be safe, be well, follow all protocols, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Okay, before we go on to our committee reports, I just, on a happy note, and I don't know if he's still on, I want to congratulate Jeff Martin on the birth of his baby boy. So the community board won. Family is growing, and we're having more babies come on Zoom, which is a great thing.
I'm on. I'm on. Thank you very much. Yeah, you might hear the little guy in the background, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're very blessed. Mom and baby are doing great.
And it's happy news, right? Which we could all use.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports, airport. Oh, no, Rosemary is not here. Community and Economic Development, Rod Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a meeting just yesterday, actually, with a representative from Small Business Services so that the committee could learn more about what Small Business Services is doing. And they also just have a general discussion of how we can help them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Consumer Affairs, is Eric with us tonight, or Andy, are you subbing?
You still get to hear from me.
Oh, good.
This evening. Hello, to echo what Marie said, I also love you all. And baby is about to go to sleep. Congrats, Jeff. As Florence nicely sent out in the email, you will see the spreadsheet for the consumer affairs applications for liquor licenses from the past month. One thing that's worth pointing out is since we've been sending out stipulations for, I'd say, almost 4 years now, we are sending out and agreeing to much fewer because we already have stipulations in place. But that being said, we still review every application with the 114th to make sure that there are no egregious bad actors that are worth bringing to the board's attention. Being none in the last month, we are requesting that the board approve the applications that were submitted and the stipulations that were sent in, which is only a couple. Or if you have any questions.
Does anybody have a question? Does anybody have a question about the stipulations or the package sent from Consumer Affairs Committee?
Or, yep.
Okay,
Any objections?
No.
Okay, so that's unanimous, Angie. Thank you for subbing and doing all the work again. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Environmental Protection, Antonella Di Severio.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No report this month. Thank you.
Health and Human Services, Julie Trilibus. Judy, can you hear me?
Hi, we have no report this month, but can you hear me?
You're breaking
Can
up.
you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
On Tuesday, March 23rd, we're going to have a meeting. Mr. No from the New York City Department of Health will be joining us and giving us presentation and updates on COVID and the vaccines, because we know there's a lot of questions still that are coming out, and we thought we would devote a meeting to it.
Thank you. Sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Judy.
And that's the report.
Housing, Evie Hanzopoulos.
No report this month. Thank you.
Land Use and Zoning, Elizabeth or Jerry? Elizabeth Evian, I imagine. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Everyone's gone.
I don't think she's gone.
No.
Elizabeth, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I was listening through my phones, that's why. Good evening, everyone. I want to bring you up to date with a number of proposals that will be coming to the board within the next couple of months, actually probably before we go on our summer hiatus. First is a BSA variance for Trinity Lutheran School, which is on 37th Street. They would like to, they need rear yard and height and setback, just setback waivers to add an additional floor to their existing school. We met with them at the last meeting on March 3rd. The reason they are not here tonight for their public hearing is because we asked them to do a couple of things. We asked them for a shadow study for the impacts that this addition will have on the adjacent residences to the rear of the building. We wanted to know how they were going to treat the wall that will be increased that's adjacent to these homes. And also, we wanted them to do some outreach to the owners of these homes before they came to us for their public hearing. So they're in the process of meeting those requests, and we'll be back. It will be at the April public hearing. At the beginning of the month, we also met with Wildflower Studios. I'm sure you know that they are the group that is building building movie studios on the Steinway Piano property that fronts along the Leicester Creek and across from where the sanitation garage is being was approved for. In the near future, we're going to be reviewing applications that they've submitted to city planning for in order to meet the regulations that have been established for any development along waterfronts in the city. They will be coming to us pretty soon on that. We are also working with them to see just what we can do to get more participation by the sanitation people for the other side of the creek. So you'll be seeing the proposals that the studios has for the for how they're going to be opening up the waterfront access to the public and 19th Avenue. I think I speak for the rest of the committee when I say that we're kind of excited to see this going in and hope it's going to be a real impetus and getting the local officials to behind getting sanitation side of the creek accessible to the public also, or at least visually improved. We had 2 informational presentations for developments in the Ravenswood area. They're requests for rezoning. One was a request from an M15 to R6A. I'm sorry, from an R5 to a mixed use zone. That was 11th Street. It's a full block between 33rd and 34th Avenue. There are 2 sites that would be developed there for a total of 352 units, 105 of which would be affordable units under the MIH. And so that was both of those buildings would be 8 stories. There was the other informational proposal that came to us is for a mixed use development also. It is 40th Avenue and Crescent Street, 7-story building with 233 dwelling units, 60 of which would be affordable. This would have a manufacturing component and a commercial component as well as the residential. I think for the first time in a very long time, we're going to be having a second meeting this month. The number of applications coming before the board, they're increasing. There's a lot of development activity. And on the 24th at 6:30, we will be having another meeting. You'll be receiving a notice about that from the district office. This is an informational presentation for a rezoning proposed for Hoyt Avenue and 31st Street. It is taking in all or 3 blocks from Astoria Boulevard north to 24th Avenue on the east side of 31st Street. It starts where the Neptune Diner is and goes north from there. The request is for a C4-5X and a C44 zoning district. All told, there are 3 mixed commercial, community facility, and residential buildings that are being proposed for this area for a total of 295 dwelling units and 74 affordable units. As I said, this is an informational meeting. I don't have any indication as yet when any of these will be certified by city planning, but I'm sure most of the applicants want to have this done by the summertime. The other item we're going to be discussing at that meeting on the 24th is, you've all heard about the Hallett's North proposal, or I think it was called West Cove when it came to us, and was it Astoria North? It's had several names, but they're beginning to do their environmental impact statement for the proposed development. There is a hearing on the 22nd. City Planning is sponsoring a hearing on this EIS, and we will be discussing at that meeting what we would like to be sure is going to be addressed in terms of the impacts that this large development is going to have. Where is my? I think that's the end of it. Yeah, that's the end of my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Parks and Recreation.
Hi,
Kathleen?
it's Katie.
Katie, thank
We have
you.
a brief report. Congratulations, Jeffrey. Great to see everybody. Thanks for your leadership, Marie. We had a meeting at the beginning of the month, and the Astoria Park Alliance shared their upcoming volunteer programming, which commences this Saturday with a shoreline and general solstice cleanup of the park. It is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you want to get more involved with the Astoria Park Alliance, feel free to visit their website, astoriaparkalliance.org, or follow them on their social media channels. We also had a presentation by a local ball hockey organization that's in the initial stages of forming a program for women and children in the district. So they're very new, they're very eager, and it was a good conversation with them where they kind of were trying to learn the ropes of the district and the parks in the district and the groups that currently operate. So stay tuned for more information about that. They hope to be up and running in some capacity based on COVID restrictions this summer. And then last but definitely not least, you may have heard already that the construction fencing is up on the Astoria House's Esplanade for repairs of the seawall. The fencing begins at the ferry dock and goes all the way up and around. So that is a huge win for the community, first and foremost, and also a win for the city, state, and federal representatives that work to make this happen. So there's too many to list, but they know who they are, and maybe Marie and Florence would like to, but that is the end of my report. And happy Women's History Month. We make history every day, and keep it up, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Public Safety, Ann Bruno. Antonia Maloney. Okay, Transportation, Mitch Waxman.
Hi, everyone. To start with, I'd like to offer my condolences to Deborah Tharrington. She's always been an incredible advocate for our community, and my heart's going out to her for her loss. Secondly, we had a Transportation Committee meeting on March 9th. We met with the New York State Department of Transportation, discussed the Grand Central Parkway, Astoria Boulevard, and laid out some pretty broad stroke vision stuff with them. They seem to have taken the interrogation well. We're going to be scheduling a meeting in April when we find out who our new colleagues are when the borough president announces that list. And also just to build on Katie's news about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Astoria Park Seawall project. Today is the anniversary of the founding of the United States Army Corps of Engineers by George Washington in 1802. So that's your history moment, Astoria.
Thank you for that, Mitch.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to step in a second because it was muted accidentally. Antonia Maloney here.
Did you have a report for public safety?
Yes, I did a short report. The 114 precinct has been chosen as one of the only precinct in Queens and 5 citywide to spearhead a new program through the police commissioner to stem the violence that's been happening the last couple of months. So they're going to be targeting certain neighborhoods and trying to reach out to the community. I'll have a lot more information in the next meeting, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that they were chosen for this, particularly because of the shooting up in Woodside Houses. Thank you for the report, and congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you, Tony. Are there any members? We're going to go into public session. Members of the public are invited to speak. Please use the raise hand function. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. How about the library committee?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize, Ed. Thank you for reminding me.
That's all right. Okay, the library committee met on March the 10th via Zoom. A presentation was made by representatives of the New York City Department of Design, the Queens Public Library, and Yoshira McKee Architects regarding the remodeling of the Astoria Library. The building will be refurbished and remodeled and include an elevator for ADA needs. There were questions raised about the possibility of a ramp in addition to the elevator to assist patrons who might be claustrophobic. The ramp was not considered feasible. Since there was no committee quorum, the requested letter of support must be voted on by the full board. In closing, I would like to commend our board manager, Florence Colares, for her technical assistance in setting up the Zoom meeting. That's the report. We require the motion for the letter of support.
Stella, can I speak?
Madam Chair, you're muted. Stella, you have to go through the chair. Please let the chair get unmuted. Madam Chair, you're muted.
Did you have a question about this project, Stella?
I made a suggestion during the committee meeting. Since they couldn't do a ramp, I would have liked to have some sort of a buzzard, because some people who are claustrophobic won't be able to use the elevator, and since there's no ramp, for somebody to come down and escort them up, and also possibly use some sort of glass, make the elevator, since on the side, a little bit more transparent, so the person will feel more comfortable. And at the committee, they said that's something that they would incorporate in, and that should be part of the letter. That would be very helpful. And claustrophobia is not something to make light of. Some, public elevators are not always well maintained, and if people are busy in the library, people would not be able to, may not feel comfortable using them, etc. It can cause a stroke, etc. So those are some small changes that will really strengthen accessibility.
So perhaps, Ed, we could include that in the letter of support.
We can include that stipulation in the motion.
Okay, Stella.
Thank you. That company had agreed to it when we spoke about it that day, but we didn't have, like Ed said, enough people for a quorum.
Yeah, we didn't have a committee quorum.
Okay. So Stella, with that noted, would you make a motion for a letter of support?
I second that.
Second. Okay, the community board will send a letter, Florence, of support for this project. Thank you. All right, and I apologize, Ed.
Not at all, Marie.
Thank you. Okay, the members of the public are invited to speak at this time. Could you please use the raise hand function so we know who you are?
Can I go first?
Can you use the raise hand function? Yes, there you are. Thank you. Who is speaking? Mario?
Thank you. We'd like to bring up the Crescent Street bike lane again on the 2500 and 2600 block over here in Astoria. We feel that it was supposed to be a temporary bike lane, and it looks like it's permanent. It's caused more trouble than, not to say it's worth. We want to compromise with the bicycle people. We're not against them. It should be a shared bike lane on these two blocks. They're smaller blocks, they're narrower. We at one point we did have parking on both sides of the street. It's caused a lot of issues other than all the other issues we've raised in the past with the parking, the elderly, the senior citizens getting access to the front of your home. It's caused trouble for the fire engines, for the snow plows, for people on the 2500 block picking up their kids from daycare on the other side of the street, on the 2600 block, just not working. And honestly, why can't it be a shared bike lane and a shared, a little shared lane on these blocks? Why did they pull off and make it a whole dedicated area? It just doesn't work. And we're not against them, but it's not working and it's not fair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mitch, I believe that DOT, correct me when I'm wrong, was going to go back and look at that section of the bike lane to see if anything could be done there.
If I can, Madam Chair, this is Joe.
Yes.
Me and the borough president and Commissioner Garcia were there, not last week, the week before. We walked the whole length. We're aware of the homes, we're aware of by the food pantry, we're aware by the hospital. We walked the whole length. The borough president gave Commissioner Garcia some strong suggestions that she took back to her engineers, and we're waiting on feedback, hopefully within this week or next, what they can do.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. Ron Orr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I've been on these calls the last few months, and I'm listening tonight, and I'm just even more confused at where the focus is on the big picture. We're talking about the community getting together, raising $1,500 for a restaurant. We're talking about we're going to do a tour of Northern Boulevard to assess the bike lanes. Where is the priority when an innocent young mother gets gunned down walking home from work for her children on Friday night, and she gets gunned down through these two gangs shooting bullets at 8 o'clock on a Friday night? These local politicians send their representatives to these meetings to read off a piece of paper, and they go back and they hide. It is totally unacceptable. We need to focus on the safety of this community first. And you know what? Yes, I was the one who posted on Facebook on February 22nd. I got rushed to the ER at Mount Sinai on Crescent Street, and my sister couldn't pull over because of the goddamn bike lanes, which should not be in front of the hospital emergency entrance. And you know what, Mr. McCartney? You're wrong. There is no 2 lanes over there. It's 1 lane. So put those damn bike lanes across the street from the hospital. Let's focus also on the safety of the community. We are falling apart. Astoria has turned into a war zone. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ron. Peter Moses?
Yep. Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. I also wanted to talk about the bike lane on Crescent. I'd like to see enforcement. If the issues are trucks are parked where they're not supposed to park, why aren't we ticketing them and towing them? If people are double parked outside of a preschool, why are they not being ticketed and towed so that traffic can move freely? It seems to not necessarily be an issue with the bike lane, but with the drivers who are not able to follow the rules of the road. I'd also like to ask if we could get updates on when committee meetings are happening as far as frequency for committees that don't have reports, just so we can see, are they still meeting? There's just nothing to report. I don't know if there's a function for that to be added to the record, but I'd love to see that. Speaking of committees.
Just a minute, Peter.
Yep.
All the committee meetings can be found on our website. Some committees meet monthly, others committees meet as warranted. So feel free to go on the website and check it out. The meeting notices and the agendas are on the website.
But if there's no meeting notice, if it's not warranted, then there can be a gap. Is there a way to tell when that, when the last meeting was?
Some committees meet monthly, but some meet every other month, dependent on their workload.
Sure. I guess, there's been an understanding that a few committees haven't met in the past year. If you look in the chat, someone just.
That's incorrect. So you
Okay.
feel free to go on the website and check that out. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate that. Beyond that, I'd love to see a sanitation committee. I've been on a couple of the calls that there was the revenue for the city for the sanitation department and a couple of other calls. The litter in Astoria has been quite bad. The litter basket pickup's been reduced due to budgetary reasons. I've now seen baskets that did exist and that were getting picked up no longer exist on the corners where they were. And I'm wondering if that can be looked into. As someone who's picked up their fair share of trash outside of my business, I know how much the litter baskets can help. When I'm walking my dog and I pick up its waste, if there's not a place for me to put it, I'm carrying it, multiple avenues to be able to find a trash receptacle. Oftentimes, I may make it all the way home and put it in my own trash. But there seems to be a gap in that area in the neighborhood.
Well, then Peter, why don't you send those gaps, the locations to the district office and we'll follow up on it.
Awesome, I will do that. But I would love to know if there's a possibility, the committee formation, if we're able to get a sanitation committee.
We're working on it.
You are working. Thank you so much. And then I had two other questions. One, the graffiti, New York City stopped all of the graffiti removal from residential and residences and businesses due to the pandemic. It's, their website says it's suspended indefinitely. I don't know if the community board is able to, apply any kind of pressure, if there's anything able to do with that. If it looks like a mess outside, it's a lot easier to throw your trash on the ground when everything's covered in spray paint. It's kind of making the neighborhood look not so great. It's a lovely place. I love living here. Started a business here. And I'd like to see it, reflect that. And if the community board could help, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Guadalupe Guzman. Guadalupe?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Hi, Marie. I'm here on behalf of several people from 48th and Broadway. I live on 3234 48th Street. My mother, my aunts, my friends walk through that area throughout the day. We go to Walgreens. And what happened on Friday at 8 p.m. has devastated us greatly. Because mainly, we know her. My mom would go to church with her, but most importantly, she could have been any of us. I'm also a mother of two, and I do make Walgreens runs. This was not in the projects. I did realize that the New York Post and other sources did put wrong information. This happened on 48th Broadway, and it is of big concern to me because Bryan High School is right there. The bus station is right there. The 104 line is right there. There's also the train line. So it's always a busy intersection. And again, this could have happened to everyone. Another thing that I have talked to a lot of the people that live around there, we have witnessed and experienced violence rise in the community. Even the person selling flowers across the deli has been robbed. Teenagers are getting jumped by other people, and we want to know what is the precinct in our area doing about this. Are they going to give us more cops? What are they doing? Because I've lived there for over 20 years and I haven't seen a shooting like I've never seen an act of violence like this, so senseless, happen in that area. And we're all very concerned. And we want to know how can we rally for support, because I know there is a GoFund But that doesn't change the fact that there's still violence happening in that area. And we need more cops, we need more surveillance. And that's clearly not happening because the people that are getting affected by this mostly are people that reside in that area, and they happen to be Latinos. My mother is here, doesn't know how to use Zoom, but she managed to get in here to hear us out and see what the community can do for us in that area. So any information would be helpful. I definitely would want to hear more about regarding precinct 114. What are their plans for the future? Because that area has gone really, really bad. So yeah,
So Guadalupe, our community
This is Barbara
affairs.
Furdock here. This is Barbara Furdock. I understand next Tuesday night at Astoria Manor at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a 114 community council meeting.
Excuse me. Okay, the community affairs officer from the 114, Carlos Chacon. Maybe you want to tell us about the meeting next week, Carlos.
It's Tuesday night at Astoria Manor at 7 o'clock.
Excuse me. Go ahead, Officer Chacon. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Officer Chacon from the 114th Precinct Community Affairs. Yes, the Community Council meeting will be happening this month. It's our first meeting that we'll be having since the pandemic. It will hold true to our schedule, which is the fourth Tuesday of the month. So we're looking at March 23rd at 7 p.m. The location has now changed because unfortunately Ricardo's has closed permanently. Our new location will be Astoria Manor. 7 p.m. You can meet formally the new commanding officer of the 114th Precinct, Captain Ray Jenkins. I'd like to address Guadalupe's concern, the situation that she finds herself in. So there's a few things. It's an open investigation. We have our detectives on it. They are working relentlessly. The one issue that I actually attended, I'm a little emotional because I actually attended the funeral today. There was a viewing, and then a mass at Corpus Christi, and then the burial itself. The NYPD provided transportation for the family. We provided a bus to take the family along. And, you know, it's a heavy concern, and I say it with a heavy heart because a lot of people have gone into to make the statement that it happened off of the development, off of outside of the housing. But a lot of times people say that, and they say it as if it's acceptable that these things could happen in housing and not outside. You know, it's unfortunate, but some people make that statement where you know it's okay or it's more acceptable if something like that would happen in housing as opposed to it being outside. To us, the police department, it's insignificant as to where it happened. It doesn't change the fact of what occurred. Very unfortunate. It's such a tragedy. You know, it was the first warm Friday of the year, and that really affects our crime. The amount of crime that occurs is we're very reflected on temperatures and time, and so this was 8 o'clock at night. Extremely unfortunate what happened, an innocent person, an innocent life being taken. And, you know, that's really what should be at the forefront of the conversations that we're having. I saw the new borough president, Donovan Richards, was present, and so was Councilman Jimmy Van Bramer, and Senator Jessica Ramos were present at the event today. And we were fortunate to have them, and the family was very happy to have seen them and spoken to them. Like I said, it's an open investigation, and we're working on it. We hope to see you all in person at this event that we're having for the Community Council, the 114 Community Council. There will be no Zoom as of yet. We're not planning on doing any Zoom. It'll be in person only.
Carlos, could you put that meeting information in the chat, please?
Thank
I
you.
will.
Thank you,
you so much.
Guadalupe, and I hope
Yeah.
you can
And just
make
to,
it there.
Carlos, just to clarify, I did mention that it was on 48th and Broadway. I wanted to clarify that because it is a busy intersection. That's why it's really a busy intersection. You have the train. A lot of pedestrians use that area, and therefore I think I just wanted to note that to kind of annotate, like note the importance of how delicate the situation was that it happened there. So again, thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Guadalupe, and condolences. Thank you. Sarah Sachs. Sarah?
Hello.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I'm Sarah. I built a civic tech project to create a pipeline for getting community board meetings transcribed, the full meeting transcript, using the closed caption text from YouTube. So I created a whole platform for people to explore their community board information, and your board is one of the few in Queens that actually publishes onto YouTube. So the goal of this project is to make local policy information accessible and bite-sized. So with every meeting that's posted onto YouTube, we'll send you some meeting highlights from it directly from what was said. So I was curious to hear some thoughts about this project in general, because we're looking to connect with different community members, and also curious if it would be possible to get some of the other committee meetings also posted onto YouTube. It seemed like there are only the general board meetings hosted, and it would be great to have more access and to the other meeting information. So I'll post the link here, but it would be great to learn more and maybe help using this project.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Could you put your information in there as well? So,
Sure.
Okay, we're working on, I don't know if we'll be doing YouTube for the committee meetings at this time. But I'd like to have your information anyway, so we could reach out to you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. I'm
Marie?
freezing. Yes.
Gloria Maloney, may I speak?
Yes, Gloria, you may.
Okay, Gloria Maloney from Dutch Kills. I just wanted to go back a little bit to the Zoning and Land Use Committee report. He stated that she stated there was a building being built on 40th Avenue and Crescent Street, and it was 200 and some odd apartments. Was that correct?
Elizabeth? But
All right,
that's coming up at a committee meeting,
okay.
Gloria.
Well,
okay.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
why they're still allowing these buildings. Now we have a bike lane on Crescent, which is wreaking havoc on the traffic there. And now 40th Avenue is a one-way. So how are they going to do construction on a building on 40th Avenue and Crescent Street? They really need to think about these things when they allow construction sites, because we have so many construction sites here now, and we have a lot of them that started that never completed. They haven't really gotten off the ground, but they have no parking signs all around them. They have fencing all around them. They're graffitiing the fencing. It looks awful, but I'm really more concerned about the traffic in that area if they're allowed to build a 7-story building there and what it's going to be like. So I would hope that they would keep that in their minds when they do bring this to the meetings. I'm going to be hopefully up there so I can speak about this. I'd like to know more about this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Abby, do you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Abby?
Yeah, I mean, it can wait. It was for Officer Chacon about the,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy Welch?
Thanks. Just because other people were talking about it, I want to comment in favor of leaving as much of the protected bike lane as possible. You know, we have very few protected bike lanes in the area. Whatever small inconveniences the bike lane creates for a small number of drivers is vastly outweighed by the safety improvements for bicyclists. Drivers in the area are very dangerous. They're always on their phone, aggressively passing bicyclists when we both have to share the road. You know, we devote a vast amount of public space in the area to cars. I don't think we need it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos Fernandez? Carlos?
Hi. Yep. Sorry, I was unmuted.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlos, obviously. I have been a neighbor of this community for the past 8 years now, hopefully a few more. And I'm also a proud and dues paying union member of Laborers Local 1010, which is affiliated to the union, by the way. And I would like to give a suggestion, not only as a neighbor, but especially as a union member, on the issue regarding the legislative changes that the Planning Together plan that Joe Nocerino referred at the beginning will bring to the city's future planning and zoning. That is that the same way the actual process contemplates environmental impact reviews and more than oftentimes shadowy studies when applying for ULURPs, a thorough work history study should be required as well. A thorough work history study should at least include a study on all past contractors and on developers' past projects, including obviously wage and hour violations, rates, healthcare plans provided by the company, subcontractors, workers' tax contributions in the past, workers' compensation insurance records, OSHA violations, and a lot more. Honestly, I think that labor should always have a voice on the table, and this will be the kind of action that, when taken, will make sure that any public dollar spent in any major construction project is given back to the community in the form of good paying union jobs, which obviously is what people in this country right now desperately need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. Vivian Nobile?
Hi.
Vivian?
Yes, I'm here. Hi. Thank you for having me. It's going to seem a little trivial since we were talking about a poor woman that got murdered in my case. And it is not far from where I live. I'm a lifelong historian. I am 3 generations of historian living here. And the city is our story is going downhill. I live on 46th Street between 28th Avenue and 30th Avenue. So it's not far from where that happened. My block, you always hear police and fire trucks coming down all the time. There's a lot of activity, but that's not what I wanted to talk about right now. But I just wanted to piggyback on what they were saying, how this poor woman was shot due to gang activity. And here the police department are being cut back on their needs. We need more police, not less. And I think what's happening is really horrible, but that wasn't what I was going to talk about right now, but I was really concerned and I'm passionate about that we need a safer Astoria. And what I'm seeing is not a safer Astoria, and we need more police officers. But I wanted to talk, I should have been able to speak about when they were talking about bike lanes. My problem right now is city bike structures on streets. If you ride around my area, there are 4 different structures in the streets taking up 12, 15 parking spots. Now, I know the bikers aren't going to care because you're a biker and you go, oh, they're cars. But you know what? Cars pay gas, we pay taxes on the gas, we pay taxes for registration, and we are being inconvenienced. Last Saturday, we drove 45 minutes around my area and I parked 6 blocks away. with my husband at 1 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I was out at 1 o'clock in the morning visiting friends. We were all tested and we all had our masks, but that's beside the point. I'm disgusted that they put up these structures. They're taking away spots. Older residents who park their cars, because where I live, we don't have driveways. And if the ones that do have driveways, they park their cars in front of their door because they don't want anybody in front of their house. So we're driving around. I have older people on my block that drive around for a long time looking for spots. What are they going to do? Nobody considers that. And I've lived here my whole life. And it's really, really a horrible thing to see. And
thank you.
It was, yeah. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You'll hear from me again.
Okay. Adam Schreiber.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I want to tag on to something that I believe it was Peter Moses who was talking about interest in creating a sanitation committee. And I know this has come up at previous meetings. I've been here before advocating for the same thing. I just wanted to reiterate that
thank you.
as a concern. But I also wanted to say that I realize that, you know, there must be a process that goes into creating new committees. And because of the urgency of speaking up on the issue of restoring the sanitation budget during budget season, I would encourage the community board to be creative about ways that they can advocate for restored sanitation funding, even if it seems like there isn't going to be a way to create a sanitation committee fast enough to be impactful right now. I think there's still a role for the community board to play. So I hope that you guys don't.
I'm sorry, we have made our feelings known regarding this budget and sanitation cuts.
Okay, in that case, is there somewhere where I could see any sort of record of statements that you guys have made, or so that I could, because I haven't seen any of the advocacy that the community board has done on that issue. So that's why I bring it up.
Call or email the community board office.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ray?
Yes, I have emailed the community board office the names and addresses of 3 new registered sex offenders who have moved into community board 1. I will not mention the name in the Zoom call because it is against the law to harass these perpetrators, and I don't want to be the cause of that. But the address is at one of the local hotels, and this person who was convicted of sex trafficking of a 14-year-old. Now, these are 3 new people moving to the area since the beginning of the month. Every month I look to see who else they've foisted on us. It's a shame that all these people are coming into our area.
Thank you, Ray, for your comments. I'm sure you have contacted the precinct about this. Thank you.
Well, I have a full database, about 40 or 50 names, and
Okay.
I know my list is being circulated.
Thank you.
Before the pandemic, 92% of all the sexual offenders in zip code 11101 was on Borden Avenue. Now it's say 92% are along 40th Avenue and 41st Avenue.
Thank you. Evie, you still have your hand up.
Yeah, when the public comment is over, I had a question. I just wanted to let the public speak. It's their turn.
Okay. Okay. Maria Zobis? Maria?
Hello, how are you?
Good, Maria.
I too wanted to make a comment regarding Mrs. Valinas's tragic death. I'm outraged. I'm just, as a mother, you can imagine. And I don't know what to say. I'm actually, out of words. Because something like this happening so close to home, I mean, it doesn't matter exactly where, what street, what block. The thing is, it happened. And it's something that I think we all need to be outraged about, because the amount of crime that we're seeing is unreal. And I feel it's very, very important that we support our police officers now more than ever, because they're doing an amazing job. They're out there every single day doing their best to keep us safe. and they need to know that they are appreciated. And I think that if we need to prioritize, crime is a big issue, and we need to work together to try and, make some sense of something so senseless and tragic that happened to this poor woman. We need to do more than just have a GoFundMe. We have to make a change. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Peterson? Kate? Kate, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
sorry.
Hi. That's okay.
So I'm just confused because I was listening on the last speaker when Adam was speaking, and I haven't seen anything either. Is there did you guys write a letter or something? And I just was out of the
Yes,
loop?
we wrote a letter actually to the mayor's office regarding budget cuts in sanitation.
That's amazing. How can we as community members find out about that and learn about that?
As I said, you may reach out to the district manager.
Okay.
626-1021.
Okay. I mean, it would definitely save a lot of us time from having to come here to try to emphasize this point if we know that the point's been heard. I had a whole thing written out that I just, don't even know if I'll go over, but last week we had 45 mentions of Astoria in the testimony that they did for the sanitation hearing that City Council did for the upcoming budget. So it's clearly an issue that Astoria cares about. I'm excited to hear that Community Board 1 is recognizing that and has written a letter about it.
Yeah.
I still strongly believe that we need a sanitation committee, and there's a number of issues that need to be discussed in that affect all different committees. One of them is the upcoming resolution 2233, which actually waives many of the sanitation fines for businesses or reduces them, which is great for businesses. I was formerly a small business owner, and I'm a big supporter of wanting to make sure that they get back on their feet, but that basically leaves us with no power over the sidewalks. So if we are not able to enforce what's going on our sidewalks, and we have reduced sanitation services because this budget is exactly the same as last year, I don't know what people think is going to happen.
Well, we're hopeful that these budget cuts will be restored, right? And that's why CB1 and other organizations have written about the importance of sanitation.
Great. I'm excited that you guys did that. So I'm excited to read that letter, and I encourage everybody to continue to make their voice heard about this. We can't just
Absolutely.
be hopeful. We need to actually speak out about our needs as a community. Thank you.
Exactly. Jean, is it Jean?
Hi, yes. I just
Okay.
wanted to make a comment that I think bike lanes keep people who bike and pedestrians safe, and bike lanes enable people to travel in a healthy, non-polluting way. And change is hard, but the streets belong to everyone, not just drivers. So we have to move past the opposition and have complete streets that are good for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Jeremy Rosen?
Hi, I'm just joining to support the call for a sanitation committee on the community board. I can remember at least as far back as former council member Vallone's terms in office, where we had exactly the same problems. We're going back 10, 20, 30 years. And now that we've defunded the sanitation department, and in fiscal year 2022, it seems like we're about to do that again. I really strongly feel that this community needs much more of a focus on sanitation. And while we're here, I would also like to express my support for the protected bike lane on Crescent and more of them across the neighborhood. My son recently turned 1. I took him for his first bike ride on Sunday afternoon. It was quite cold. He really enjoyed it, and it was quite striking to notice how carefully drivers treated me because I had a small child on my bike. When I am a 40-year-old man on my bicycle by myself, I'm in a lot of danger. And I have not been treated well by drivers in this community. So I just want to express my support for that as well. And finally, yes, the gun violence in the city is out of control. I don't feel like giving more money to the situation as we're currently doing it is really doing much for that. And I really feel like this community should get behind more holistic solutions to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Josh?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm joining in the chorus of, advocating for a sanitation committee. I think it's not only relevant, it's necessary. It's going to help clean our streets, going to help keep our kids safe. I know I don't need to reiterate all of that. I'm happy to hear about the letter that you guys wrote. It was actually Kate and I suggested that on that last community board meeting. That's awesome. I would like to know where we could find that. Has it already been made public, and is there a record of it having been made public? We just want to know where to find it.
As I said, contact the community board office. Florence will be happy to give you a copy.
Right, but it hasn't been publicly distributed, like on Twitter or Facebook or an email.
No.
Okay. All right. And then, I guess relying on budget cuts not happening is, counting on that is one thing, but what's the backup plan? I guess I would say that we can't just hope that they're going to restore the money from the budget, but does the community board have sort of a plan of attack of how we might go about responding to those funds not being
Well, I would encourage everyone who's opposed to the budget cuts, as most of us are, to write their local council people.
Yeah.
Tell them this is an important item for you and for the community. The more, the better.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Maria.
Hi.
Maria? Hi, Maria.
Yes. Hi there. I'm sorry. I just was going to leave, but I heard Jeremy and Jean make a comment and I needed to follow up. Before you said that you took your son for a bike ride and Jean felt it was important for everyone to bike ride and get exercise. Every month I come and I tell everyone the same thing. I have a 17-year-old son. He cannot run. He will never ride a bike. He will never speak. He is disabled. Stop assuming everyone, young, old, or in between, has the same ability. We have a large number of disabled people in our community. Stop assuming when we're driving, we're on our phones. We want safety too. And you have to think of the people who do not have the ability to ever ride a bike. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a number here, 482-1548.
That was me, Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, did you want to speak?
Well, like I said, Carlos took care of it.
Okay, good. Evie, you still have your hand up, and I don't see any other member of the public with their hand up. So do you have a comment?
Sure. I don't know is Officer Chacon still here?
Yes, he is.
So I just wanted to go back to the council meeting that's going to be happening on the 24th, and the fact that there's going to be no Zoom. I guess I'm just puzzled as to why that's happening, because the pandemic is still happening. Many people still haven't been vaccinated. Is there going to be, measures in place in terms of crowd and social distancing? I'm just puzzled as to why this option wouldn't be offered while we're still in the middle of a pandemic. If some people want to go in person, that may be fine, but other people may not be. And obviously, public safety is of concern to everybody, and people are raising it here tonight. So I'd like to know why that can't be possible.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Carlos.
Okay, very good. Yes, so yes, I believe as of the 19th, and that's the only reason why we're having the meeting as of the 19th. The new executive order allows up to 150 people to be in a room with masks. And so we have not been having Zoom meetings. It's not as if we've been having them and now we're going to go exclusive to in person. There weren't any Zoom meetings prior. We've been on pause this entire time. Now that the opportunity exists for us to have a meeting, we're planning on having it in person. We don't believe that we're going to reach anywhere near that number, but we will be distributing masks to anyone that doesn't have one prior to entering. Yeah, that's our plan. I'll look into a Zoom capability, but that's beyond me. But I will look into it. I will let the people above me know that people interested in having the Zoom. I saw it also in the chat. I was reading up, and I saw that it was requested as well. I'd like to, now that I have the attention of, I'd like to speak about two things. So yes, we do have less police officers in the precinct, not just in our precinct, not just in PSA 9, which covers housing developments that are in CB1, not in the borough, in the entire city. There's just less officers available. And that's that. You know, what comes along with that. Some people believe the latter, that there's no correlation between the amount of officers and crime. You know, you leave an area vulnerable by not having enough officers. On the contrary, you should have more. And also, I saw also in the chat about the sex offenders. The police department doesn't have any say, we're not consulted at all as to where those sex offenders are placed. That's the Department of Homeless Services that makes that decision as to placing them in shelters or anything like that in the area. Ultimately, we're not even made aware of those registered sex offenders. As a matter of fact, I got an email earlier today about this, and I've gotten other complaints, and we reached out to DHS because sometimes they'll move in and fail to meet the requirements of their parole, and not notify their parole officer of their residency, and we to no avail. So please, any concern with something like that, please make it vocal to the Department of Homeless Services. Hopefully they can help us.
Thank you. Officer Chacon, I just want to note, it seems that many people are concerned about this being an in-person meeting in the height of COVID. And I think the ability to reach more people, you know, I don't think personally that people will come out. And while I understand, you know, Australia Manor is open, they have a limitation, right? And also, I believe if you're going to be at a guest at a wedding, that you're required to have a COVID test. So I don't know how that translates into having a meeting in a catering hall. So I just think, it seems to me that the people here feel that you would reach more people if you had it. Maybe you can do both. I don't know if you could.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more hands up. Motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in April. Get vaccinated if you can, or wear a mask, or do both. Thank you.